r/ask Reddit. What did that kid in your school do that will never leave your mind? My school gave out pencils with $100 bill designs on it because hard work pays. A friend of mine tore the design off, rolled it up, approached a girl he sorta knew, and asked her for a lap dance. She told a teacher and he was suspended for a week. We were in 6th grade. In 6th grade a boy showed me a condom on the bus and said, "I got this for us." In 6th grade a girl told me semen tasted salty. A kid I knew took a poo in his hands and painted the walls in the boys' bathroom. Did not return next day. Next I heard him. He messaged me on FB, "Hey man. What up? You pooping the walls man, that's what's up." Oh man. Did every school have the poo bandit? Thought it was just ours. But the identity of ours was unknown for the longest time. This kid in my computer literacy class in high school would talk to me nearly every day about his imaginary dragon girlfriend and how beautiful she was. Yo, but how weird would it be if he said she was ugly? Gots, my imaginary girlfriend is such a beach. She never puts out and is really letting herself go. OMG, I was in a toilet stall in elementary school trying to poop and I got stage fright and hated when someone was in the bathroom. A dude was in the stall right next to me, so I waited. He flushed, washed his hands, then I heard the door open and shut. It was quiet. I proceeded to poop, feeling great. When I was done, that kid was just standing there by the door. He up and pretended to leave just to hear me poop HNNNGH. Once in 7th grade, I went into a bathroom with the intention to poop, and this guy that I didn't really like and his friend were in there talking. When I went into the stall I had the biggest premonition that he was gonna try to look over the stall at me for some reason, and I really didn't want him to see my dong. I decided to sit down without pulling down my pants, and sure enough 20 seconds later he jumped onto the divider to watch me, but then he got weirded out since I was just sitting there with my pants up staring at him. What the duck, why would he want to watch you? I dunno man, middle school was a weird time. This guy would just combine all of his food at lunch, including the drink, into a weird soup and eat it like that, no matter what we were eating. Maybe he had bad teeth, extensive cavities. My high school had a kid that did this, but it was to soften everything up because he had cavities so bad chewing anything was painful for him and his parents refused to get him to a dentist. That's so sad. On a happy note at least, his senior year he went to live with his aunt, who I'm pretty sure got him to the dentist because our senior year he started eating soft foods without the mush. First day of high school UK, age 11. Kid found a pair of badly soiled boxer shorts in an outdoor bin that had clearly been there all summer. I'm talking caked in a 1-stroke 4-inch layer of dried shit. Proceeded to put them on his head and start chasing groups of people around the playground. Not the best first impression to make when starting a new school. The poor guy never really pulled himself out of the social rut he dived headfirst into that day. What I want to know is why was there a pair of soiled boxers in a trash can for over 3 months? There was this kid who liked to eat paper, so one day in the new term, he asked the new Asian boy for some paper. The Asian boy, in a full Asian accent, ripped out 3 pages from his notebook and said, "Here is breakfast, lunch and dinner." Asian boy is a true legend. Back in elementary school there was a kid who poured gravel into his ears. Sounds like a very Ralph Wiggum thing to do. I listen to rock music. God, I even heard that in Ralph's voice. I was in art class and this kid goes, "Hey, check this out," sticks his middle finger down his throat and throws up all over the table. That sounds like something I would have paid someone $3 to do. Kid spanked it to a movie in Spanish class where a couple girls danced in the rain. He walked around in black extra wide Janko bondage pants with a ripped up fishnet shirt and a black wife beater, cat ears, and a hot pink cat collar that his girlfriend attached a leash to and led him around within the hallway. He also had black emo hair and wore lots of eyeliner. The dude was living his life with his pet play submissive fantasy. Of course everyone teased the shit out of him for it, but he gave 0 ducks. You do you, emo cat boy. Did every high school have an emotional cat boy from 1999 to 2007? Mine had 2. Threw a desk at a teacher and it ended up hitting another student. In the 1st grade a kid next to me was chewing on a pen and it ended up exploding in his mouth. Raised his hand to go to the bathroom, When the teacher called on him, he went to open his mouth to ask to go to the bathroom and the ink just started leaking out. Metal. He had his entire arm down his pants during orchestra. He was playing his trombone. Couple weird goth kids hid behind the bleachers during gym class and stuck chili flakes in their dong holes. Not sure what kind of pain for pleasure they were going for, but they both had to leave school early because of it. I don't like it. We had one kid who edited the slides to a song we had to sing during our weekly school assembly. The song was Winter Wonderland, and he edited the last line in the chorus to say walking in a winter ducking land. They cut the music as soon as they saw that slide containing that lyric. It was not really that funny, you'd say, but I had to give the guy credit for having the balls to do that. Someone in my high school changed a person's last name to Beach and they didn't notice until after it was published and ye-books were distributed. They did the recall and taped her correct last name over it in every yearbook. The girl was a champ though. She even changed her last name on Facebook to Beach. This kid used to drink cups of ranch dressing at lunch and nothing else. He would have 15-20 of those little ketchup cups loaded on his tray and he'd start slurping it down. Pretty sure he had some kind of mental disability, so I don't want to rag on him too hard, but just watching him do that every day turned me off of ranch for a few years. Alternative theory, he was hungry and his parents wouldn't give him money for lunch, so he went with the most caloric item on the condiments table. Dut. To be honest, that was my thought as well. It's a surprisingly good choice if you're just trying not to starve. Mostly fat, so it'd probably keep you full for a bit. Not nearly nutritionally good if that's all you're eating, but in a desperate measure it is tons better than nothing. If that's the case, poor kid. My cousins and I used to make free tomato soup using hot water, ketchup packets, 1 creamer, non-flavored, salt, pepper. I remember it being not too bad and it would give you something warm in your stomach on a really cold day. A 10th grade girl got arrested coming out of school one day when I was a senior. Nobody really knew why. Then a few weeks later it turns out she was a pimp and was pimping out other high school girls to adult men. I think that a female pimp is called a madam. He peed on some random girl's head when she was at her locker. This was in like 7th grade or so. Pretty sure he got detention for like a week, but his social detention lasted much longer. Brought a crossbow in and shot another student with it because the kid gave the police a statement about him stalking girls. He was very ducked up. Has police report about him committing a crime. Decides to shoot kid. Another crime. Who gave cops a statement. How well did that work? This kid was the troublemaker voted most likely to end up in prison. He tried to fight teachers, bullied people at random, and generally both gave and got a hard time. It was my school's first ever computing class. Brand new computer lab and all. How this kid, who I'm almost certain was failing, got into the class I don't know. He sat next to me. I didn't care. School bullies were low on my list of things to care about. He was quiet. He took notes. He tried. And I watched him get more and more frustrated. Because the teacher never responded when he tried to ask questions. Never tried to elaborate for him once everyone else understood. A few weeks in, I saw him trying to read my notes during programming practice. I looked at his screen and saw what he'd done wrong. I slid my notes across, silently tapped the part he needed, and went back to my work. It took me a long time to realize that he was quite smart, but had some kind of learning disability, and for that entire year, if he had questions, he asked me. I have the ability to explain a single concept 6 different ways, and would quietly do so until he got it. We never spoke a word to each other outside of that classroom, and I've no idea where he is now, but the teacher announced on our final day that the whole class had passed. This was really nice to read. Some girl changed her tampon in the middle of class in 7th grade. Girls at my school would do this until they ended the 2 bathroom breaks a semester limit. I went to Catholic school and during mass this girl sitting next to me didn't fully get up, but just sort of squatted and started peeing in the pew next to me. Girls wore skirts as part of their uniform. She left the school shortly after. Also had a kid who would get a nice big ball of spits in his mouth then let it drop out of his mouth into his shirt pocket. He said he was saving it for later. Catholic school is weird. Folks, I remember a girl in 2007 who was banged by the dad of one of her peers. Yes, it was Catholic school too. Turns out that he divorced his wife back then and 10 years later he and my classmate found each other again. They're about to get married this year. Not sure if this fits the ARPS question, but it definitely will never leave my mind. Friend of my brother's, a year younger, in 10th grade if I remember right. I wasn't there but I saw the aftermath. He was horsing around with a few other people in class, chasing each other and whatnot. There was a door that had one of those old-fashioned bolt-on slide locks with a round bolt that you lifted and slid into a round hole on the other side. This door was wide open at the time. Anyway, while running away from his friends he ran past this door. His picky finger slid perfectly into the lock where the bolt would normally fit, all the way to his knuckle, and literally just ripped it right off his hand at the joint. He didn't make a sound himself when it happened. He did right after though of course. But my brother said the finger made a sound like a pencil being snapped in half. They reattached it, and it still mostly worked after, but it always looked pretty wonky, all sad and crooked. Weirdest freak accident I ever heard of. In middle school, there was this girl whose long hair kept spilling onto my desk. I asked for her to move her seat, or her hair, and she turned around and ducking hissed at me. That made me laugh quite a bit to be honest. We were in 4th grade. This girl who was really quiet would eat from trash and go from table to table looking for food left. She was kind of fat. I was in the same bus route as her. She lived in a beautiful historic house and they weren't poor. We met again in high school. I just said hi to her and wished her a good school year. Later the principal called me to her office because this girl has said I was bullying her. I was so shocked. I had never been mean and was pretty naive so my principal believed me. After this, that girl would look at me as if I was prey to be cautious about. In my high school's Mac lab, the admin computer had a feature that let all the other iMacs be taken control of at the same time to mirror whatever the admin computer displayed. This was often used to show instructions more easily for in-class computer assignments. The teacher forgot to lock the admin computer during a washroom break. So one kid seized the opportunity to access the mode I mentioned just now, and rickroll the whole lab, using one of those sites that makes the browser jump all over the screen, starting it right before the teacher came back. The teacher wasn't very savvy with computers so she got very agitated and had to call the IT guy for help. In elementary school I used to be very afraid of using the school washroom for shitting and one time I shit my shorts in class because I couldn't hold it in any longer. Since I was wearing shorts the shit ran down my legs and onto the floor colon. A girl I went to high school with who seemed sweet, quiet and friendly. She was perfectly normal. She turned out to be a huge mess. One day, a few years later, she beat her 5-year-old stepdaughter to death for not cleaning her room. What the duck? One time at band camp, yeah, I know, a kid started having asthma attack, and as the counselors were helping him he started shouting this wasn't supposed to happen until Thursday. I still think about that very frequently. The conversation turned to farts amongst the 7th grade girls. The new girl, short and squat, and as of yet silent, shook her head and stated, "I ain't never pooted in my whole life." It echoes in my head regularly to this day. I also say it whenever I am accused of farting because it is hilarious. In high school there was this kid who wouldn't have a conversation with anyone, spent 4 years with a dude in the same class and never have I seen him say more than okay, sure, by even though everyone tried talking to him to cheer him up. We thought something was wrong or he was just shy. He would just sit on his desk all day and look right in front of him unless disturbed until one day we had a big school fight. Those happen a lot in my country. No one expected him to show up since he wasn't friendly with any of us, but dude showed up and proceeded to beat up 5-6 guys on his own like a ducking wrecking ball in a construction site. Shit looked like one of those cheesy martial arts movies. After the fight he came back, grabbed his stuff, said bye like it was nothing and just ducked off. I still suspect to this day he was a robot. No, not a robot. Just the main character had that sweet plot armor protecting him. First day of 1st grade, a kid shoved a pencil through his own hand and then just calmly told the teacher and got escorted out of the room. He never came back. I went to middle school and high school with a real creep. He always seemed creepy. Had that weird uncle that made you uncomfortable at family gatherings vibe to him. He was obviously on steroids in high school. He even bragged about it. It was weird because he didn't play any sports. My sister once punched him in the face for bullying me when I was in the 6th grade. That's not relevant to this story. I just wanted everyone to know my sister is a badass. Anyway, in his senior year, I was a year younger. He was arrested for sexually assaulting a 12-year-old boy at knife point. He ended up getting off easy, no pun intended, because he had rich parents, house arrest and probation. He even came back to school after it happened, but didn't stay long because no one wanted to be around him, even the teachers. Last I heard of him, he was selling sports cars and involved in a Cuban gang. He's white, in Miami. Girl would put a piece of bread in her mouth and proceed to roll the wet soggy bread mass into a ball. She would then take the ball out and look at it, and then put it back in her mouth, over and over again. Saved his piss for a whole week or month, I forgot, and then sprayed it on all the handrails at school. Eventually he was ratted out by someone and the VP came to get him in my homeroom class and confronted him and our teacher about the accusations. He said it was just apple juice and he was just joking about it, and right when the teacher went to sniff and take a sip from the bottle he yells, alright, it's piss. Used an Apple remote 2009 times to continually play the Sucking on My Titties song on our history teacher's computer. She would walk away and the beat would start. She would run to the computer and he would pause it. She would walk away and he would hit play. Went on for like 20 minutes until she unplugged the computer. A science teacher in my school was cool if a little weird, not in a pedophile type way. His room was always open for the kids to hang out in. He spent a lot of his own time and I suspect money managing an animal club which the kids were responsible for looking after. We had hundreds of different animals, from hissing cockroaches to snakes to a 3-foot iguana, mice to chipmunks to chinchillas. He also liked to tell cool stories about his own life, such as the pigs that he kept, Rasher and Bacon, his caving experiences, sailing experiences, etc. He would spend his own time helping students that were struggling and give them extra tutoring if warranted. However, he never tolerated laziness or attitudes and would call out students that couldn't be bothered, which is where this kid comes in. This kid made a comic book depicting the science teacher raping the students, male and female, while saying his little catchphrases. It was found and brought to said science teacher's attention. A meeting happened with the senior management in the school where they brought the kid's mom and the teacher in. This 6-foot massive teacher with a huge ginger beard cried and said he had never experienced anything like it in his life before now. Even the rest of us hated this kid for what happened, and at that age we were really immature. Clearly not as traumatizing as everyone else's, but I will always remember the scab eater. This girl would get various cuts and scrapes on the playground pretty much every day and be carted off to get cleaned up and bandaged. When the scrapes hardened into scabs, she would always sit in the back corner of the playground picking the scabs off her skin and eating them. Usually these were on her elbows or knees. If the cut would start bleeding again, she would patiently wait for another scab to form before she went back at it. I've never seen someone so utterly pleased with themselves as the girl casually dining upon scabs while all the other kids were playing on the playground. This thread was not as fun as I was expecting. I'll start with a light-hearted one. There was a very strange girl that sat next to me in math class. On a few occasions I witnessed her biting her fingernails and very carefully arranging her nail bitings in tiny little piles on her desk. Strange, and the tragic one of my brother's friends shot and killed his mother. He stood behind her for 15 minutes while she watched TV on the couch before deciding to go through with it. He had always been a nice kid. After his older brother died of an overdose, he became a different person. He killed his mother about a year after his brother died. So very sad all around. Kid threw a padlock at someone he was fighting with in the locker room. The intended target ducked and the padlock hit me right in the chest at full speed, leaving a keyhole shaped mark right over my heart. You're like an anime character now. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.